Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Lost Coast Podcast. Today, we have a great guest on our show. His name is Robert Ralston, and he is the life coach that helps special needs families with challenging days. Robert, welcome to our show.
Greetings. Thanks for having me.
So, Robert, um, I the idea that you're helping special needs families in those challenging days. Um, how did you get started in this, and what was the mission here behind it?
Yeah, well, my mission is to help all the families with special needs, and that comes out of what my wife and I've been doing for 22 years. We have a low functioning child with autism, 22 years old, and so we went through this journey of all of a sudden we have a special needs child. He was growing, he was developing, and then the autism came on. So then I was in denial, even though I knew he had autism. I knew he wasn't going to be normal. I have a normal child that I expected. I was still in denial for many years, and people were polite, but somebody said this is the way he's going to be, and other people, oh, he's making such progress, he can do this, he can do that, and I was very hopeful. And so then somebody said this is the way he's going to be, and so now I realize that it's a journey that parents go through, that you have a low functioning child, you're in denial, you're bargaining, you're looking for all kind of therapies. You've heard of this, you've heard of that. Sometimes you spend lots of money and lots of hope. And so I want to take these families, new families with a new diagnosis, and just be a coach. And what us coaches do, we do 80% listening and only 20% talking. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, what are you worried about today? What are you worried about a couple of years from now? What's mom worried about? What's dad's worried about? And then we'll listen. I'm asking them to take an hour or 40 minutes. If that's all you got, you're chasing your child around the house, you've got other kids, take some time and I'm going to listen. And then as you talk, then you're going to come up with ideas. As you hear yourself voicing words, new pieces are going to click in. And as I reflect it back, then you're going to get pieces. And then I'll use what's called motivational interviewing. I'm going to say, well, what would happen if you jump in the car and just drove 2 hours, spent a day at the hotel with the pool, and then came back the next day? Instead of saying you need a vacation, well, that's consulting or mentoring. No, that's not what life coaches do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll have an idea and I'll ask a question, and then you'll answer it, and that'll give me 3 different ways to go on whatever I think is a solution, because I'm a guide, and you tell me where you want to go, I'm going to follow. And we've got 2 paths. Which one do you think I should take? Well, what do you think? And what are you ultimately after?
Yes. So basically, you're kind of specializing in these new families who come to a realization that this
Yep.
is going to be part of life, and you're kind
Right.
of just helping them through the phases that they're going to be going through, but getting started early to understand it,
Mm-hmm.
so they're ready for it more or less, because you've been through this yourself. You're still working through it every day, and so I'm sure you're learning every day. There's a different challenge every day, like you said.
Right.
They're just challenging days sometimes, and it's the way it is. And so it's really great that you're helping these young families get ahead of the game. Basically, I'm not going to say it's not challenging, but to make it less challenging in a way to understand it and what's going on.
That is correct. And I want to show them that there's lots of support out there. I'll turn them on to different networking groups, and there's lots of support, and there's lots of options. There's lots of training. There's lots of ideas. And when people are so passionate that they're fighting over what's the best thing to do, that's a good problem to have. That's a good challenge to have. That's great. That's great. So instead of getting into the different camps or different controversies, let's just say, look, I don't have some oddball thing that nobody's heard of. And then I'm going to help these families, and I want to help the new families that start off. And then I may get a family that's all of a sudden they're going through puberty. Their child was higher functioning, and then they hit these problems with schools. they got diagnosis early, but then they move, they're trying to switch schools, or they get the public school's not helping, the charter school they can't get into. You've got what's called IEP meetings, individual education programs. So you sit down with the school and they got their therapist, and sometimes you have to fight them to get to do what they want to do, and sometimes it's just a matter of getting on the same page.
Yeah.
And so I want to coach people with that. And then you've got adult years, and you've got special needs trust, and so it's the whole life. I'm going to help them the whole time with whatever they're going through.
Yeah, I can relate on so many different levels there, like what you said. The number one, the school systems. I was on the school board here in my local community for a while, and that was a major challenging piece. The school board members, they don't understand it. You know what I mean? They just don't. The teachers, the staff, everybody, they don't understand it. And all you are trying to do is get the best for your child. And the schools want to do that for you too, but sometimes funding's not there. There's a lot of variables that come falling into a situation that make it where, like you said, you're having that challenge with the school system, and they don't know what to do either. Everybody wants to help, but for lack of a better way of saying it, the government's not giving as much help as they used to be in those situations to where we can make all this available to everybody anymore. School systems have basically been left on their own to figure it out.
That's right.
And so it makes it very difficult. I mean, I have a cousin who's the same age as your son, who's same scenario, very autistic, great kid though. Just it's a pull on the families, and it's a lot of challenges come up. Like you say, just getting away for a night is got to be planned strategically and done. But to get that break and to get that time, especially for a couple to be together, to have their own time.
Right.
I mean, it's great that you're helping them understand this and get started early, because I can see how that could be a huge benefit to families and putting some certain things in place and being prepared. Number one, I mean, failing to plan is a plan to fail. So
right.
That's got to be tough. Is there any like guidance you give them for like financial resources and stuff like that and all those kind of things?
Yeah, I tell them to do the Dave Ramsey type of thing, to pay off all their credit card debt, and that gets into working on making sure they don't have any blind spots when it comes to their mind, body, spirit, and bank account. That they have to lay everything on the table. And as a life coach, we deal with what's going on in the future. So if they've got some problems that go to the past, then I'll say, then sit down with your therapist, work this out, then come back to me, and we'll work on your homework from the therapist, and we'll incorporate that into the special needs child. So I encourage them to do that. The other thing with parents is I want to help them with conflict resolution. That 75% of special needs families get divorced, and we need to, because you can't just you have to stay together. You have to stay together for your child. And a lot of people come from divorced homes. They think, well, we can do this. Well, I mean, if there's abuse, then you have to get out. If it's just a disagreement, let's teach you how to get back to that feeling of butterflies when you first got married. Let's teach you how to, when you get in a disagreement, you don't retaliate, and you don't retreat, and you give up the idea of getting in the last word. You just have to say, I may be right, I may be wrong, or maybe it doesn't matter. Like when I get to heaven, I could find out that I'm 90% wrong, 5% either way is fine, and 5% I was right. So when I talk to my wife about stuff about our child, then I don't know. I don't know for sure. I have an opinion, I have a projection. So teaching those basic skills about, the talking stick, like one parent has the talking stick, and they go through, data, emotion, judgment, what I want. And then the other partner has to repeat that back. And the partner doesn't give up the talking stick until their other partner, they're sure that they get it. You don't get try again, go through it again. So that way we're both being heard. And then we we let go of the idea of getting in the last word, of retaliating. How can you say this when you did this? No, I don't want to talk about that. So I can teach those basic skills. And then if it doesn't work, if you can't resolve it on your own with these skills that lots of therapists are teaching, I've heard this from many different coaches and programs, then you go to your therapist and you work it out and you come back. So you stay together for your child. And then the other problem you have is we have other children. How do we balance out with your older children with this when this comes on? What do we have more children? How do we balance out? I wish we had more children because then we could have somebody looking after Josh after we pass away. Is that selfish? No. These other children they're going to have their life. Their child may be living with them. Their child may be in a home, but you got somebody 100%. This is my brother or my sister. I'm going to look after them. And then you have the siblings have a happy life, happy childhood, and go off and do your own thing. As we get older, come back from the other side of the planet and help us with this and be part of the team. And that's the other thing with team building is that you have speech therapists, occupational therapists, financial therapists. You have people helping you all the things around your child, and then you're looking for blind spots, the mind, body, spirit bank account. I've got to stay alive till I'm 105 to take care of my child. I set a goal to be able to, I want to have a Britney Spears dad problem. I want him to come to me and say, what's this guardianship thing? I want to go to the moon. It's 40 rubles for the Russian space shuttle. I want to go visit Mars. What's this guardianship you got on me? I'm taking you to court, just like Britney Spears' dad had the problem. I want that problem. And I've set a goal to help my child. And when you have lower functioning children, then it's not cancer. It's not a death sentence. It's a problem they were born with. It's a birth abnormality. If they're not defective, it's not a birth defect. And just go on with it. Plan your life around this child, and you can have fun. You can do stuff. Have a hobby. I tell all my special needs families, have a hobby that's outside of this. It's very challenging, but have a hobby. If you like gardening and you can get your child out there and they like to see stuff grow, find a hobby that you like, that your spouse likes. If you can all do something together that you really enjoy, and that helps them with fine motor skills or gross motor skills. If they're in a wheelchair, get them out in the fresh air and let's do some stuff. Let's not do all the tablets and the technology is great. My son is nonverbal. He's got his iPad that he talks with, and that's great. And embrace technology and embrace the great outdoors. And then the other thing that us parents, you talked about, like we like to go on a vacation. Our child is so strong that you have to have a strong person or a strong-willed lady that can say, Josh, sit down, and he'll obey. And so as your team, you build it together, a team of respite. That's what we call for a break. And then you get people that you can hire, you get your family members, and just involve, because you start off with your parents and then your grandparents. And you say, well, who can help me with financial? If I died in a car wreck, who can do this? Who can do that? And put together a team always, who can help? Who can do this? Who can do that? And then as they step back and get older, then your nieces and nephews who are running around, show them your special needs child. Do you want to go into something like this? Can you help? Because, well, I babysitted my child and then he got too big for me and I couldn't really corral him, but I decided to go into something else to help special needs, or I was exposed to this. So always, you're not alone. Put together a team of people to help you, and you expand your team. Keep on expanding your team. You're not in this alone.
Yeah, I hear you. In my industry, the financial industry, we kind of have these policies that we can set up that is designed specifically for some cash growth, and
Yep.
it's designed to help with whoever is going to be taking care of that child later.
That's right.
A lot of times, a lot of parents I see are putting it into one of the other children's names that they're
Yep.
that brother or sister is the owner of the policy,
Yep.
and they will have access to it when mom and dad are no longer available to be
That's
able
right.
to take care of that child. And
Mhm.
it's been kind of a game saver, I think, in relief for some of these parents, knowing
Right.
that there is something available and somebody's going to be taking care of this, and it kind of relieves that pressure that's always, like you say, on top of your mind. You're thinking you got to live
Right.
to your 105, 110, whatever it
Yeah.
may be. You never know.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
it's it's that's a great thing, and there's very little resources out there for any of this, really,
Yeah.
as far as help that these parents can get. So we all like to try to find these little things that we can manipulate and move
Yep.
and transfer some of the weight off their shoulders,
Hmm.
to at least
Yeah.
push it off for the future or whatever. I mean, like I say, it's just some challenging days. That's all. That's what it is. So we got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I think we call that a special needs trust that we do. You take your wills and your life insurance and the house and you put all that into a trust. And then, as you said, that makes the parents feel better that they've got this, the people on their team, their siblings coming up, who's ever going to help. And you've got all that stuff in place. And it's great.
Yeah, yeah. The trust is a big piece, especially in situations with families like that, to be able to, oh, for lack of a better way of putting it, dictate from the grave. It's just the way
Right.
it is, to make sure things are at least being taken care of the way you've seen them fit and what you built it for. And then
Right.
hopefully during that time you've educated everybody enough that they can keep the process going somewhere down the
That's
line. You know.
right. Hmm.
No, that's great. This is a great mission you're on, Robert. I think this is a great thing. With us discussing this, I mean, do you work with like the state or the governments or anything like that in a direct relation as far as to be able to do they send you resources or anything like that, or are you a resource for them?
Not yet, not yet. As a life coach, I know all about that stuff and the school boards, and I'm trying to, as a coach, I'm really it's that I am a teacher, not an educator. And what I'm trying to do is that as I coach people, then they pick up different skills and they get support. So I'm not really a provider. And with my coaching certification, then I can, say, well, do you have is there a dad that's struggling? I want to help families individually. So I'm doing that instead of trying to do a program or a handout or a newsletter. I want it because that's getting into teaching, or it's getting into educating and telling everything what's that. I want to help the families individually.
Right. Get direct contact and make a
Direct contact.
difference. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So tell us, what's the best way, if our listeners are here? I'm sure some listeners, I mean, we
Hmm.
all know somebody that could probably use your help.
Yep.
What's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, it's life coaching for special needs families, with families with an S and needs with an S. It's life coaching for special needs families. It's a long one. You can put a link somewhere, and they can call me. My cell number is 502-541-5038. And they can leave a message and they can call anytime. If I'm in Eastern time, but we run around late, and my autistic son loves to go on rides, and he has ADHD also. So they want to be outside. So every 37 minutes, he drags me to a ride, and I try to make him do his therapy, homework, or speech. We got to do this. We got to do that before we go. But that's what I do. I ride around in the car, and I'm up and down in these country roads, and I may lose signal, but just call me, send me a message, send me an email. I want to help.
That's great. Now, you're doing all this, but you also have a career that you also have to
Yeah.
maintain. And this is another thing that you probably got to help with the families too, is the balance between
Yep.
having the challenging days in your career. I mean,
Right.
that's amazing. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you own a plumbing business, correct?
Yep. that's what I'm doing, is the blessings of the family business that I have this. And then I'm always looking for a side hustle, because I want these, because what the family business has done, that I worked here 40 years, had Josh 20 years ago. So I stepped away from the idea of being a field plumber, and I worked in the office and in the warehouse and in the shop, taking the trucks to get fixed, fixing the drain cable machines, doing all that work. So if I have to take them to therapy, I can take off and to do that. So with your career, your career is going to revolve around this child, and that's your mourning the loss. Well, I'm going to be a CEO, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to travel, and we're going to do this, and I've got all these hobbies. And when you have a special needs child, that changes everything. So I would, you work from home, you get a skill, you build up you pay off all your debts, you follow Dave Ramsey, you just structure your work life around your family. You put your children first. And so you're going to have to look for jobs. You can do 2 or 3 jobs. You can step away from the idea, I've got to work for somebody that's going to always have my life insurance and health insurance and payroll. Well, that's going to be part of your job, but you and your spouse keep thinking, well, what can we do? What side hustles can we do? What can we do for our child? And so what I did is, my dad always saved these toilet tank lids that are in the background, and I started trying to sell them. I create things, tank lid art. I made a clock out of one. One guy said, sell them on eBay. Well, I'm grossing $20,000 a year selling them on eBay. And I learned to pay quarterlies. What are quarterlies? My tax lady said, oh shit, Rob, you can't spend all that money. I told you got to give a third to the government. This is what quarterlies are. So I learned about that. So now I'm going to take what I've learned for that into life coaching for special needs families. I will be paying quarterlies on the money that I'm making. So just structure your business around that. You have to think outside the box, and you can have fun. You have a different set of friends. You're not at the bar drinking and watching your sports team and you got to have a hobby. How do I relax? Well, I've got I watch YouTube videos on cars, on building, restoring cars. You got to have a hobby, and you also structure your life around tank lids and whatever hobby, whatever you can do to make money. Like me and Josh will ride out, a guy gives me $100 for 100 tank lids, and then I over 20 tank lids, and then I bring them home, I fix them up, I clean them up, I sell them, and one may be worth $100. The other 5 may not sell for 2 or 3 years, but they're just sitting there. So always look for some long tail income, some stuff that you can do, you can put out. There's a lot of little side hustles you can do, something that you love, something that you would do. Find a career that you would do that you wouldn't even be paid for. I would do it for free to do this, that you enjoy every day. Don't have a job that you dread going to every day. Have a happy work life where you can work all day long. I work all day long cleaning tank lids and doing networking with life coaching and taking care of my child. This is my life. So that's the life, the work life I want people to live. That's my projection for special needs families.
Yeah, yes, that we would all do what we do for free if we could just afford that, I guess.
Yeah.
We can't afford to do everything for free. It's just the way it is.
No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yep.
What else do you have for our listeners today, Robert?
Well, what I have is that what I want people to do is, I'm going to give 3 free life coaching sessions, and that'll get you started. So it's 3 of them. They're 3 1-hour life coaching sessions, and then we'll get you started. And then, and I want to help people. So that'll give, so we can help put out fires on the first session, get to know each other, and then put some plans in place. And then we could use a 3rd session down the road for accountability. You might say, well, the next big question I might save that. We might need all 3 to get you stabilized. We might use 1 or 2. And then I'll be on the phone. You call me when my kid just pooped in Walmart. I'm so embarrassed. What am I going to do? my 5-year-old is now potty trained. Let's celebrate. Who can I call? Who will understand? It's Rob, your life coach for special needs.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So in order to get those 3 free sessions, where they just mentioned this podcast, were
Yeah,
they
just mention Cory's the Lost Coast podcast. That's the if I had a code, that's what it would be. So just mention that.
perfect? Perfect. I think that's a great idea. That's a great give. Um, I can't see why anybody wouldn't take you up on that. I mean, everybody here knows somebody that could use
Right.
those 3 free sessions and get
Yeah.
started.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm going to do. Well, whatever the session, whatever they want to do, it's their session. Well, I'm going to listen and I'm going to support.
Well then, Robert, so now that we're here at this point, what kind of example can you give us of somebody that you've helped, somebody that you're helping, whatnot, and
Mhm.
what direction has it taken them,
Yeah, well, I help some families with to have you had this child and what he was doing is his mom thought he wasn't inside there and then but he thought he wasn't listening, so I said he's inside there, he understands what's going on. So what she did, she was talking with a bunch of other moms out after school, and the teacher were all sitting around there and they're sitting down, and the lady, oh, I've got a migraine. Well, the child goes up behind her and tries to adjust her neck. Well, because that's what she saw the doctor do to her mom. And so the child is listening. So they're inside there. So, oh, he's trying to adjust your neck because he heard, oh, migraine. Oh, I know how to fix that. I'm going to help. So, and so so she realized that yes, he is in there. He does understand, because when you're sitting there talking to him, even though he's nonverbal, then you say, well, so, Josh, my son's Josh, you don't chime in here. What do you want to say about this? So they're in there, they're listening, they understand more than you think, and they're with you, they're trying, they're flapping their arms. That's called stimming, and that's a release of energy. So when he's jumping up and down, I'm in a Smart Connect with on Alignable, I'm on a Zoom call, and he jumps, screams and yells, and he's happy, and that's a good problem to have. He's happy, and when they stim and or the talkers want to repeat movie lines and just one daddy settles into that, like his son wanted to do some lines in a movie, so he chose the character only had a couple lines, and the son did all the other lines. Well, instead of saying we can't do that again, he thought this is what he wants to do. Let's settle into it. The I'll play the low part, and he got, because his son wanted to talk, wanted to verbalize, wanted to connect. That's how he did. He adjusted his strategy. That's what the other dad did that I helped.
Yeah, that's great. Like you say, just kind of find those situations where you know which direction to go and
Yeah.
being able to adapt and
Yep.
make a
Yep. Yep.
move.
Yep. You just adapt and move. The other dad, his son was flipping out that I was helping about. We're going the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. Hold on. Hold on. You see, now we're here. We just went a different way. So, and so you have to always be teaching, and you'll learn. Like my son, if I roll the window down, I duck because he's going to throw his toy out the window. Well, he's bonked me in the head with a heavy toy. So we on a long ride, we're going somewhere he wasn't, or we took his alligator. If he throws his alligator, it's not going to hurt anybody, and they'll see it coming, and it's not so heavy. So we just adjust our strategy with our toy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It reminds me of a story with my son, and he's not autistic. He's a healthy child, but it just goes to show the brain works in mysterious ways. My
Mm-hmm.
dad made him a hot dog one day.
Yeah.
He put the mustard on one side and went to go put the relish on. And my son started to get upset because my
Yeah.
dad put the mustard on the wrong side of the hot dog.
Right.
So my dad just took the plate and turned it, the half turn, and you could see the light bulb go off on my head. He was just a little kid, at the
Yeah.
time. And he was like, oh, it's just you have to like just kind of that process, like everybody just don't panic. Here we go. We're gonna work
Yeah.
on it.
Amen. Amen.
Thing. Yeah.
That's glorious. And Dad may not have understood why he was flipping out, but he took that solution and helped him.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
So, Robert, unless you got something else for our listeners today, we can bring this to a close.
Well, this has been a great visit. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, Robert, you've been a great guest today. We appreciate you for coming on the show. This was a very great content show. We had a great conversation, and to our listeners today, this is the episode of this is the Lost Coast podcast, and we are going to sign off. And we thank you all for coming, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.